Hello everyone. Now we are going to discuss about exogenic processes, particularly weathering and mass wasting. So we have to remember that Earth's surface is constantly changing and that the geological processes involved in shaping Earth's surface are continuous processes that are sometimes observable. The rate at which these processes occur vary. It can be when rocks are broken down by weather, sediments are moved by wind and water, and mountains are sculpted by wind, water, and also ice. This includes exogenic processes such as weathering, mass wasting, erosion, transportation, and deposition. Um, the different exogenic processes are responsible for the various geologic features in Earth. So the big idea is that exogenic processes are responsible for shaping the Earth's surface and forming the geologic features that are seen on the surface of the Earth. And these are the learning competencies that hopefully at the end of this lesson, you must be able to achieve. So first is to describe how rocks undergo weathering, explain how the products of weathering are carried away by erosion and deposited elsewhere, and finally explain how rocks and soil move downslope due to the interaction or direct action of gravity. So first of all, we have weathering. Exogenic processes are external processes that occur at or near the surface of the Earth. They are part of the rock cycle, and they are responsible for transforming rocks into sediments. Also, exogenic processes include degradation processes such as weathering, mass wasting, erosion, transportation, and aggradation processes such as deposition. So, first of all, the physical breakdown and or chemical alteration of rocks at or near the Earth's surface are referred to as weathering. So this is a degradation process and does not involve movement of materials. There are two types of weathering. The first one, we have mechanical weathering, and the second one is the chemical weathering. So first, mechanical weathering. So mechanical weathering or disintegration is the breakup of large rocks into smaller fragments without changing the rock's mineral composition. There are naturally occurring physical processes that breaks rock into smaller pieces, and these include frost wedging, insulation weathering, unloading, and biological activity. Okay, so first type of mechanical weathering is frost wedging. This is also known as frost weathering, and this occurs in regions where the temperature fluctuates above and below the freezing point, which results to a freeze-thaw cycle. What happens is that water that enters through the cracks and empty spaces of rocks expands as it freezes, as shown in the picture. The ice exerts enormous outward force, and when the ice thaws, water can flow further into the crack. The repeated freeze-thaw cycles weaken the rock and break up rocks into smaller fragments. Next, we have insulation weathering. So this is also known as thermal stress weathering. And this is the result from the expansion and contraction of rock caused by temperature change. Heat causes expansion of materials. The coefficient of expansion vary for each mineral in the rock, resulting into different stresses that may cause the rock to crack. Furthermore, the outer surface of rocks is often warmer or colder than the inner portions, which may cause the peeling away of outer layers, and this process of peeling off is called exfoliation. Next, we have unloading. This is also known as pressure release. So this occurs when the overlying rock is eroded away, causing the outer rock to expand more than the rock below it. It may also separate the outer rock from the rock body. This process is evident in intrusive igneous rocks. Intrusive igneous rocks are formed deep beneath the Earth's surface, as what we have discussed before, and the overlying rock material exerts tremendous pressure on the igneous rock. When erosion removes the overlying materials, the pressure on the igneous rocks is released, causing the outer portion to expand. And this continued weathering causes sheets of rock to break away in a process called sheeting. So the next factor would be biological activities such as the burrowing of animals or in animals, growing roots in plants, and several human activities also contribute to mechanical weathering. The mining activities, in particular, break down the rocks into smaller pieces. Next off, we have chemical weathering. So chemical weathering decomposes rocks through a chemical change. The process involved in chemical weathering include oxidation, hydrolysis, carbonation, solution, and action of organisms. So first, oxidation. This occurs when the oxygen dissolved in water will oxidize some materials. Reddish-brown rust will appear on the surface of iron-rich minerals, which easily crumbles and weakens the rocks. Water is perhaps the most important agent of a specific type of chemical weathering called hydrolysis, especially in silicates. For example, the reaction of olivine, which is a silicate, with water results in the hydrolysis of the original material, and it gives off magnesium hydroxide and silicic acid in solution. Carbonation in solution occur when carbonic acid, which is formed when carbon dioxide mixes with water, reacts with carbonate rocks to form a soluble product such as calcium bicarbonate. The biological action of some plants and animals may create chemical weathering by releasing chelating agents and acidifying compounds that react with some materials or with some minerals in rocks. The decaying remains of dead plants in soil may form organic acids that, when dissolved in water, may cause chemical weathering. Next, we have mass wasting. So there are places that show visible downward movement of rocks, soil, and regolith in slopes. The mass movement of rocks, soil, and regolith is often referred to as mass wasting. It is the step that follows weathering and is a degradation process. The driving force of mass wasting is gravity. Although gravity is the controlling force, there are other factors that influence or trigger the downslope movement of materials, which include water saturation, oversteeping of slopes beyond a stable angle, removal of anchoring vegetation, and ground vibration from earthquakes. In this case, water has a lubricating effect that lessens the cohesion between particles, allowing the particles to slide past one another easily. The angle of repose is the steepest angle at which materials remain stable and not move downslope. Depending on the size and shape of the particles, the angle of repose varies from 25 degrees to 40 degrees. The root system of plants bind the soil and regolith together, and minimizing the downslope movement of materials. Ground vibrations due to earthquakes cause mountains and hills to break off and move. So the types of mass wasting would be rockfalls and debris falls, landslides, flows. So, rockfalls occur when a piece of rock or a mass of rock becomes dislodged and moves at a free fall along a steep cliff. Debris fall is similar to rockfall except that it involves a mixture of soil regolith, vegetation, and rocks. At the base of the cliff is an accumulation of fallen materials called talus. Next, we have landslides. So a landslide is another type of mass wasting, and it is a sudden fast movement of a cohesive mass of soil, rock, or regolith. It occurs in two ways. It can either be translational or rotational. So translational slides involve the movement of a mass of materials along a well-defined surface such as bedding plane, foliation surface, or joint surface. And as shown in the picture, that's how translational slides look like. And next we have rotational slides, which is also called slumps. So these occur when the descending material moves en masse along a concave upward curved surface, and it looks like this. Okay, so this is how rotational slide is different from translational slide. Next up, we have flow. So it may refer to slurry flow or granular flow. So first, slurry flows consist of a mixture of rocks and or regolith containing 20% to 40% water. They are considered as water-saturated flows. And slurry flows may be subdivided further on the basis of velocity. So the first one is solifluction flows, wherein the soil, rocks, or regolith move at a rate of around 1 centimeter per year and occur in areas saturated with water. So this is in the solifluction looks like the picture in the upper left-hand corner. Debris flows have velocities that range from 1 meter per year to 100 meter per hour, and this results from heavy rain. So that is the picture in the middle. And lastly, we have mud flows, which are a high velocity mixture of sediment and water with velocities greater than 1 kilometer per hour, which is again caused by heavy rains. So that's the picture in the lower left corner. Next, we have granular flow. So, granular flow only contains 0 to 20% moisture, and they are not considered as water-saturated flow. So, granular flow are based on velocity as well. First one is creep, which is the slow movement of regolith down a slope as observed in bent trees and fences. So, like the picture at the bottom. Earth flows have velocities that range from less than 1 centimeter per year to less than 100 meters per hour. And then we also have green flows, which have velocities that range from 9 meter per hour to less than 100 kilometer per hour, and composed mainly of relatively dry material like sand dunes. And then finally, we have debris avalanche, which is a very high velocity flow, like more than 100 kilometer per hour, of a large volume of mixtures of rocks and regolith. And then finally, we have another type of mass wasting, which is human-induced. So, although mass wasting is a natural phenomenon, human activities may induce mass movement. And examples of human activities that could result to mass wasting include, first of all, the removal of the surface vegetation through logging and urban development, among others. Vegetation helps hold soil, loose rocks, and regolith through the roots of plants. Plant debris like leaves, twigs protect the soil. Observing practices may reduce mass movement like selective logging, reforestation, planting trees on steeper slopes and along streams and rivers, and not removing burning plant debris. Next, we have oversteeping of slopes through quarrying, open pit mining, building structures on steep slopes, highway construction like road cuts, and adding weight to slopes with housing construction. Reducing the slope may reduce mass movement. This can be done through proper grading or building terraces, reinforcing the base of slope, and reducing the load in the slope. And then adding moisture to slopes through lawn watering, leakage, and draining in swimming pool, like water reservoir leakage as well. Water serves as lubricant. We have to remember that, yeah, water serves as a lubricant in mass movement, and reducing water in a slope makes the slope more stable.